Welcome to the Here's What Happens When You Put Baking Soda in a Toilet Tank.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So right now, in your home, there is this totally hidden ecosystem that is just silently dissolving the internal mechanics of your plumbing.
Yeah, silently and expensively.
Exactly. I mean, it's adding hundreds of dollars to your water bill, harboring these massive colonies of bacteria. And honestly, you probably haven't even looked at it in years.
Else people haven't, no.
Right. We focus so much on the surfaces we interact with daily. You know, the kitchen islands, the bathroom mirrors, your hardwood floors. But today, we are completely bypassing the aesthetics.
We're getting into the gross stuff.
We are. We're going straight into the engineering and, like, the hidden biology of the home. We are reclaiming the most used yet fundamentally neglected mechanical device in your house, which is the toilet.
Specifically the tank.
Yes, the tank. And we're going to explore how mastering some very basic household chemistry, using literally just common pantry staples, can completely transform how you maintain this entire system.
It really is a massive blind spot for most of us. I mean, if you think about it, unless something is catastrophically wrong.
Yeah, like it's overflowing.
Right, or unless you hear that constant sort of haunting hiss of running water in the middle of the night, you simply don't open the toilet tank.
No, never. You don't take off that heavy porcelain lid.
Exactly. It is the ultimate out of sight, out of mind environment. But what we're going to uncover today in this deep dive is that ignoring this specific environment creates this whole cascade of physical and chemical problems.
And we are talking about severe mechanical degradation here, costly plumbing failures, and genuinely problematic bathroom odors.
Which nobody wants.
No, nobody wants that. And the most fascinating part of the research we are unpacking today is that the solution to mitigating all of this requires absolutely zero harsh industrial chemicals.
Which is pretty rare for bathroom maintenance, honestly.
It is, which is exactly why we are diving into this specific source material today. We are pulling from a highly detailed, incredibly meticulous guide polished in the spruce.
It's a great piece.
It really is. The guide is written by Mary Marlowe Leverett, and I want to just pause right here at the top to talk about her credentials.
Yeah, that's super important.
Because in a world of, internet life hacks and viral cleaning videos that often do way more harm than good, establishing the scientific baseline of our source is just critical.
Oh, absolutely. The internet is full of terrible plumbing advice.
It really is. But Mary isn't just a home blogger. She has over 40 years of applied experience.
Wow, 40 years.
Yeah, and she is a master gardener, a highly regarded housekeeping and fabric care expert, and the protocols she outlines are explicitly backed by peer-reviewed studies from the Utah State University Extension.
And that specific combination of credentials is, it's what makes her methodologies so structurally sound.
How so?
Well, let's look at the Master Gardener title, for instance. That isn't just like a casual hobbyist designation. A Master Gardener actually has to undergo rigorous training in organic chemistry, soil biology, and ecology.
So they really know how things grow.
Exactly. They understand at a molecular level how biological growth, like fungi and bacteria, colonizes specific microclimates.
Right.
They understand how minerals interact with organic matter. So when you combine that really deep biological understanding with 4 decades of practical housekeeping experience, you get a methodology that isn't just about, making things look shiny.
It's deeper than that.
Right. It's about fundamentally altering the chemical environment so that grime and degradation just cannot take hold in the first place.
And having the backing of an agricultural and applied science extension, like Utah State University, it gives it that necessary academic weight.
Exactly, because extension programs are entirely built on taking complex, peer-reviewed university research and translating it into practical, safe applications for the general public.
So to be clear to the listener, we aren't talking about trendy TikTok cleaning tricks here. We are talking about practical, peer-reviewed chemistry applied directly to your home plumbing.
Real science.
Real science. So let's get into the environment itself. Section 1, the hidden ecosystem. I've always thought of the toilet tank as essentially the forgotten basement of the house.
That's a great analogy.
Right. It's out of sight, it's dark, it's damp. And just like a real basement, you can basically ignore it for a decade.
Until you can't.
Right. Because if the foundation gets flooded or starts growing black mold down there, it doesn't matter how nice the living room looks. the integrity of the whole structure is compromised.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it because it highlights the concept of structural integrity. To understand why the tank is such a volatile environment, we have to analyze the specific physical conditions inside that little porcelain box.
Okay, so what's going on in there?
Well, the core issue, like the driver of almost every problem we're going to discuss today, is standing water.
Standing water!
Yeah. Think about the fluid dynamics of a home. We use a toilet, we flush it, the water cycles.
Right, it moves.
But what happens in a guest bathroom? Or what happens in your main bathroom during the 10 hours you were away at the office?
The water just sits perfectly still.
Exactly. And in the biological world, standing water that lacks sunlight and lacks constant aeration is the ultimate catalyst for stagnation.
It just goes dead.
Right. It ceases to be just water. It becomes a biological reservoir.
And our source outlines 3 specific antagonists that set up camp in this stagnant reservoir. And the first one is exactly what you'd expect in a dark, wet basement, which is fungal and bacterial growth.
Yes, the biological threat. I mean, tap water is treated, of course, but it is rarely entirely sterile by the time it travels through, miles of municipal piping and sits in your home plumbing.
Right, there's always something in it.
Always.
Yeah.
And airborne mold spores and ambient household bacteria naturally find their way into the tank through the little gaps under the lid.
Oh, I never thought about that. The lid isn't airtight.
Not at all. So once they land in that dark, unmoving, oxygen-depleted water, they find an ideal habitat to multiply. They form what are called biofilms.
Biofilms. That sounds gross.
It is gross. They're these slimy, highly resilient layers of microorganisms that just coat the porcelain walls and the internal plastic components.
Oh. Which naturally leads us to the odors. Because I think a lot of people assume that if their bathroom smells musty or just slightly off, it's just a general ventilation issue.
Or they think it's coming from the bowl.
Exactly. But it's actually coming from these biofilms living in the tank water, isn't it?
It is. As those bacteria and fungi metabolize, they off-gas volatile organic compounds.
So they're basically breathing out terrible smells.
Essentially, yes. And because the water in the tank is eventually displaced into the bowl during a flush, or it simply evaporates slightly into the bathroom air, those odors permeate the whole space.
So you could be scrubbing the actual toilet bowl every single day.
Literally every day.
But if the reservoir feeding the bowl is effectively a stagnant pond, you will never eradicate the smell.
Never. You're just fighting a losing battle.
Okay, so biological growth and odors are the first and third threats. But the second threat, the one that actually costs homeowners real money, is the physical damage caused by mineral deposits.
This is a huge one.
And this is where we transition from biology to chemistry. Because tap water isn't just 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen, right?
Oh, not even close. Unless you have a highly sophisticated whole house reverse osmosis system, your water carries dissolved minerals.
Like what kind of minerals?
We are talking primarily about calcium carbonate and magnesium, which are the elements that create what we call hard water.
Right, hard water. Everyone complains about it on their shower doors.
Exactly. And when water sits stagnant in the toilet tank, evaporation slowly occurs, even in a closed environment like that.
Because it's not totally airtight.
Right. So as the water evaporates, the concentration of these dissolved minerals increases until they reach a point of supersaturation.
So there's too much mineral, not enough water.
Precisely. And they have to go somewhere, so they precipitate out of the water and begin to crystallize onto the surfaces of the tank.
And that crystallization isn't just an ugly brown or white stain on the porcelain. That crystallization is actively packing the moving parts.
It's basically turning into rock.
Right. I think a lot of people visualize the inside of a toilet tank as just a holding pen for water. But it's actually an intricate mechanical system. You have the fill valve, the float, the chain, and arguably the most important part, the flapper.
Ah, yes, the flapper.
That little rubber seal at the very bottom that holds all the water in the tank until you flush.
And that rubber flapper is the primary victim of this mineral crystallization. Let's look at the mechanics of failure here.
Okay, break it down.
The flapper is made of an elastomer, a flexible rubber designed to create a perfect, watertight seal against the hard plastic or porcelain flush valve.
It has to be a perfect seal or it leaks.
Exactly. But as those hard water minerals precipitate, they form a crystalline lattice right over the rubber.
Oh, so it coats the rubber.
Yeah, over time, calcium carbonate physically bonds to the elastomer. It causes the rubber to lose its plasticity, to harden and to warp. It also creates a really rough, uneven surface on the seal itself.
So the seal is compromised. It's essentially like putting microscopic rocks between the rubber plug and the drain.
That's exactly what it is. And when that seal fails, even microscopically, water begins to slowly, continuously leak from the tank down into the bowl.
And that drops the water level in the tank.
Right, which then triggers the fill valve to kick on and replace the lost water.
Ooh, that is that phantom flushing sound.
Yes, that intermittent hissing you hear. It seems like a minor annoyance, but structurally your plumbing is failing. A deteriorating flapper valve can waste hundreds, sometimes thousands of gallons of water a month.
Which leads to massively inflated utility bills.
All because we allowed microscopic minerals to crystallize in a stagnant environment.
Okay, so the stakes are extremely clear here. We have mold, we have airborne odors, and we have mineral crystals silently destroying our plumbing mechanics.
A triple threat.
Truly. So how often are we supposed to be dealing with this? What is the maintenance timeline to prevent the destruction of the flapper?
So Mary's guide establishes a baseline rotation of twice a year. Every 6 months is the standard requirement to get into the tank and disrupt the buildup of those minerals and biofilms.
Every 6 months, okay.
However, and this is a crucial caveat in the research, you have to account for the microclimate of your specific bathroom.
What do you mean by microclimate?
Well, if the toilet is located in a highly trafficked bathroom with poor ventilation, say a smaller room where multiple hot, steamy showers are taken every morning.
So the ambient humidity just skyrockets.
Exactly. If you already battle mildew on your shower curtains, the air itself is laden with moisture and spores. In those highly humid microclimates, the biological growth in the tank accelerates exponentially.
Oh, wow. So what's the timeline then?
For those environments, the recommendation aggressively shifts from every 6 months to once a month.
Once a month. Wow. That really shifts my perspective. It forces you to view the tank not as a static piece of furniture, but as an active living ecosystem that needs constant monitoring.
It really is alive in there.
But amidst all this talk of biological growth and mineral lattices, the source provides a preventative tip that I absolutely loved, mainly because it requires almost zero physical effort.
Oh, the rare flush rule.
Yes, the rare flush rule. It's brilliant.
This is one of those wonderfully simple pieces of preventative maintenance. If you have a toilet that rarely sees action, like a basement powder room, a guest bathroom, or a toilet in a vacation property, the guide recommends that you simply walk by and flush it on occasion.
Just press the lever when you happen to be in the room.
Literally just flush it as you walk by.
It sounds almost too easy. But from a physics perspective, why does that work? Why does just pulling a lever stop a complex chemical process like mineral crystallization?
Because you are actively disrupting the preconditions for stagnation. When you flush a toilet, you are creating a violent kinetic event inside the tank.
A kinetic event, I love that.
You are breaking the surface tension of the water, which allows ambient oxygen to mix back into the fluid. You are physically sweeping away the early stages of biofilms before they can firmly anchor to the porcelain.
So you're knocking them loose.
Exactly. And most importantly, you are completely evacuating the mineral-heavy water and replacing it with a fresh supply.
Effectively resetting the concentration levels before supersaturation and crystallization can even occur.
You've got it. You are resetting the biological and chemical clock of the ecosystem just by introducing movement.
So movement is life and stagnation is decay. I love that. Give it a courtesy flush as you walk down the hall.
It's that easy.
But let's face reality here. Let's say the stagnation has already happened. We didn't do the courtesy flush. We haven't opened the tank in 3 years.
It happens to the best of us.
The walls are coated in slime, the flapper is starting to look crusty, and it is time to actually clean it. As we established, we are not reaching for the industrial bleach. We are starting with the solo act, which is baking soda.
Yes. And to understand this method, we really need to elevate our perception of baking soda.
Because right now I just see it as the stuff that goes in cookies.
Right. Most of us categorize it purely as a culinary ingredient, the leavening agent that makes muffins rise. Or perhaps we just think of that yellow box we shove to the back of the refrigerator and promptly forget about.
Guilty as charged.
But chemically speaking, baking soda, which is sodium bicarbonate, is an incredibly elegant, potent, and entirely natural cleaning compound.
And this is where I really want to dig into the mechanics, specifically regarding odors. How does a white odorless powder actually eradicate smells?
It's actually fascinating.
Because our modern conditioning tells us that to get rid of a bad bathroom smell, We need to overpower it.
Yeah.
We need to buy a spray that smells intensely of synthetic pine needles or tropical flowers and just blanket the room in it.
And that is the fundamental difference between masking a problem and chemically disarming it. When you use those heavy synthetic sprays, you aren't doing anything to the source of the odor.
You're just layering smells.
Right, you are simply overwhelming your own olfactory receptors with a stronger scent. The bacteria are still there, off-gassing.
Still breathing out the bad stuff.
Exactly. Now, to understand how sodium bicarbonate works, we have to look at what an odor actually is. In a bathroom environment, offensive odors are typically volatile molecules, meaning they easily evaporate into the air.
Okay.
And chemically, these volatile molecules tend to be either highly acidic or highly basic in nature.
Okay, so the smell is quite literally a floating reactive chemical.
Exactly. And sodium bicarbonate is what chemists call an amphoteric substance.
Amphoteric.
Yes. That means it has the unique ability to act as both an acid and a base, depending on what it interacts with.
Wait, really? It can be both?
It can be both. When baking soda encounters an acidic odor molecule, it acts as a base and neutralizes it. When it encounters a basic odor molecule, it acts as an acid and neutralizes it.
That is incredible.
It literally interacts with the architecture of the odor molecule and chemically transforms it into a completely neutral, non-volatile, odor-free salt.
It just turns it into salt.
Yep. It doesn't cover up the smell, it fundamentally destroys the chemical structure that makes the molecule smell in the first place.
So rather than throwing a heavier perfume over the bathroom, we are fundamentally altering the architecture of the odor molecule. That makes so much more sense. It's targeted chemical warfare.
That's a good way to put it.
But it's not just about the smell. Baking soda also serves a critical physical function in the tank, right? It acts as a gentle abrasive.
The word gentle is the operative term here. Think about what we are trying to achieve. We have fungal growth and hardened mineral scale bonded to the inside of the tank. We need a physical grit to shear that material away.
Like sandpaper.
Kind of, but the tank itself is made of porcelain.
And we want to avoid scratching that porcelain at all costs. I assume scratches are basically like laying out a welcome mat for future bacteria.
They are way worse than a welcome mat. They are permanent fortresses. If you use a harsh industrial abrasive, like a pumice stone, a wire brush, or heavy scouring powders, you will create microscopic scratches or canyons across the smooth surface of the porcelain.
And then the bacteria just hide in the canyons.
Exactly. Once you breach that smooth glaze, bacteria and dissolved minerals have a textured surface to anchor into. It makes the toilet tank exponentially harder to clean the next time, and it accelerates the rate of decay. This is where we look at the Mohs scale of mineral hardness.
The Mohs scale, that's the one that ranks materials from 1 to 10, with diamonds being a 10, right?
Exactly. Porcelain ranks fairly high, around a 7. Baking soda, on the other hand, is extremely soft. It sits at about a 2.5 on the Mohs scale.
Okay, so it's much, much softer.
Right. This means the crystalline structure of baking soda is rigid enough to physically dislodge organic slime and weaken mineral bonds, but it is physically incapable of scratching a material that is a 7 on the hardness scale.
Oh, because a 2.5 literally cannot scratch a 7.
Exactly. It protects the structural integrity of the tank's glaze while stripping away the unwanted buildup. It is the perfect mechanical balance.
All right, so let's translate this chemistry into action. Let's walk through Mary Leverett's exact protocol for method 1, the solo method.
Let's do it.
Step 1 is prep. You reach behind the toilet and turn off the water supply valve. Then you flush the toilet several times, holding down the handle to ensure you completely drain the reservoir.
You want to get all the standing water out.
Right, you want the walls of the tank to be damp, but you don't want a pool of water at the bottom. Once it's empty, you take exactly 1 cup of baking soda and you generously sprinkle it across the damp interior walls of the tank.
Just coat the walls.
Yeah. And here is where we hit the most crucial step of the entire process, and frankly, the step where our modern impatience usually causes us to fail. You wait. You must step away and wait exactly 30 minutes.
I cannot stress the importance of this waiting period enough. As a society, we have been conditioned by marketing to expect instant results.
Oh, totally.
We want to spray a blue liquid, immediately wipe it away with a paper towel, and see a sparkling surface. But true, non-destructive cleaning relies on chemistry, and chemistry requires time.
It has to do its job.
Exactly. We are using a mild, natural compound. During those 30 minutes, the sodium bicarbonate is actively doing the heavy lifting. It is reacting with the dampness to form a localized alkaline environment.
So it's breaking things down.
Yes, it is slowly breaking down the protein bonds of the biological stains, neutralizing the volatile organic compounds, and chemically weakening the crystalline structure of the mineral scale.
So if you sprinkle the powder and start scrubbing right away, you're basically ignoring the chemistry and doing all the physical labor yourself.
You're just wasting your own energy.
But if you walk away for half an hour, the powder does the sweating for you.
Precisely. You are letting the chemical reaction run to its conclusion. After the 30 minutes have elapsed, the bonds holding the grime to the porcelain are broken. Now, you take your scrub brush and carefully agitate the walls of the tank. The grime should lift away with minimal physical force.
But Mary includes a very explicit warning during this scrubbing phase. You have to treat the internal mechanical parts like they are radioactive. You focus solely on the porcelain walls.
Right, do not touch the parts.
Do not take a stiff brush and start vigorously scrubbing the delicate plastic fill valves or the rubber flapper.
It is a critical warning. Those components are precisely calibrated to maintain specific water levels and seals. If you aggressively scrub a delicate float arm or dislodge the chain mechanism, you've just created the very mechanical failure we are trying to avoid.
You just broke your own toilet.
Exactly.
No.
The walls are where the massive biological buildup occurs, so focus your mechanical agitation there. Once the walls are clean, you simply reach back, turn the water supply valve back on, allow the tank to fill completely, and give it one final flush to rinse all that dislodged material and remaining baking soda right down the drain.
Which naturally leads to a question that I know a lot of homeowners listening right now are thinking about. What happens when that large concentration of baking soda and dislodged grime flushes down the drain?
It's a fair concern.
Especially for listeners who aren't connected to a municipal sewer line, but rely on a private septic system in their yard. Is dumping a cup of baking soda into the plumbing going to harm the septic biome?
It is a vital question, and the science here is incredibly reassuring. The source confirms that sodium bicarbonate is 100% safe for both municipal sewer lines and private septic systems. In fact, it goes beyond being merely safe. It is actively beneficial.
Beneficial how?
To understand why, we have to briefly look at how a septic system functions. A septic tank relies on a delicate balance of anaerobic bacteria to continuously break down and digest organic waste.
Right, it's a living system down there too.
Yes. Those bacteria are incredibly sensitive to changes in their environment, specifically the pH level. If the wastewater entering the tank becomes too acidic, say from harsh household cleaners, acidic foods, or bodily waste, those beneficial bacteria begin to die off, and the system fails.
Which leads to catastrophic and expensive backups.
Exactly.
So how does the baking soda prevent that?
Because baking soda acts as a powerful pH buffer. Think of a buffer as a chemical shock absorber.
Shock absorber, I like that.
When you flush that cup of baking soda down the drain, it enters the septic tank and essentially stands guard. If a sudden surge of acidity enters the system, the baking soda chemically absorbs those excess hydrogen ions, preventing the overall pH of the tank from dropping into the danger zone.
So neutralizes the threat.
Exactly, maintaining a stable, neutral environment where the beneficial bacteria can thrive. By using this method, you are simultaneously cleaning your toilet tank and actively nourishing the biological health of your entire wastewater system.
Talk about a symbiotic relationship with your house. You solve the problem in the bathroom, and you protect the infrastructure buried in the backyard.
It's a win-win.
It really is. Okay, before we escalate our cleaning methods and introduce the explosive chemistry of our next method, take a moment to visit Kindeke Carpet Cleaning on Google for your home cleaning needs.
Good tip.
All right, let's step it up. Method 1 is fantastic for regular maintenance. But what if you've moved into a new home and you lift the lid to find a tank that looks like a science experiment gone horribly wrong?
We've all seen those.
Thick, hardened, calcified rings of mineral scale that baking soda alone just won't budge. Or what if you just genuinely hate scrubbing and want the chemistry to do even more of the work? This is where Mary introduces the dynamic duo, baking soda, combined with distilled white vinegar.
This is the heavy artillery. We are graduating from a single static ingredient to an active, dynamic chemical reaction.
Right, because baking soda is just the base.
Exactly. When baking soda alone isn't enough, it's usually because the mineral deposits, the calcium carbonate we discussed earlier, have become too thick and calcified. Baking soda is a mild base, and bases are not highly effective at dissolving hard mineral scale. For that, you need an acid.
And that's the vinegar.
Yes. Distilled white vinegar is a mild aqueous solution of acetic acid.
And When you combine a base and an acid, we all know what happens. Anyone who ever built a papier-mâché volcano for a middle school science fair has seen this reaction.
The classic volcano.
It bubbles, it foams, it expands. But we usually just look at that as a fun visual effect.
Yeah.
How does that foam actually translate to cleaning a toilet tank?
We need to look past the visual novelty and understand the physical mechanics of that reaction. When acetic acid, the vinegar, contacts sodium bicarbonate, the baking soda, an immediate two-step proton exchange occurs.
A proton exchange.
Right. The acid donates a proton to the bicarbonate, forming carbonic acid, which is highly unstable. That carbonic acid instantly decomposes into water and carbon dioxide gas. The massive bubbling foam you see is millions upon millions of microscopic carbon dioxide gas bubbles rapidly expanding and escaping the liquid.
So it's not just a chemical change, it's a kinetic physical event.
Exactly. In the context of cleaning, that rapid expansion of gas acts as a mechanical force. Imagine those millions of bubbles acting like microscopic jackhammers against the surface of the porcelain.
Jackhammers. That's an amazing visual.
They aggressively agitate, lift, and physically shear away the deeply embedded grime and the foundational layers of hardened mineral scale. The chemical reaction creates physical turbulence right at the boundary layer where the dirt is bonded to the tank, loosening everything so that it can simply be wiped away.
That is incredible. The bubbles are literally scrubbing the microscopic canyons of the porcelain for you. And what I found so reassuring in Mary's guide is that this specific combination, vinegar and baking soda, isn't just a quirky DIY hack. Professional plumbers actively endorse this.
They do. It's a plumber's secret.
Why do the experts who repair these systems for a living prefer pantry staples over industrial chemical cleaners?
Professional plumbers rely on this specific methodology for a trifecta of practical reasons. First, the economics. It is incredibly inexpensive compared to specialized commercial descalers.
True, vinegar is dirt cheap.
Second, accessibility. You can find these ingredients anywhere at any time. But the third, and undeniably the most critical reason, is the preservation of the mechanical parts we discussed earlier.
Right, the flapper and the valves.
The acetic acid and sodium bicarbonate reaction is powerful enough to dissolve mineral scale, but it fundamentally will not corrode or oxidize the internal plumbing components.
Which stands in stark contrast to the commercial alternative. Because Mary's guide includes a very strict, almost dire warning here regarding those drop-in cleaning tablets you see at the grocery store.
Oh, yes.
You know, the ones you just drop into the tank and leave there.
Yes. If you take one thing away from this deep dive, let it be this warning. If you insist on using commercial drop-in tank tablets, you must read the label and guarantee they do not contain bleach.
Wait, really? Bleach is the holy grail of bathroom cleaning for most people. It kills everything, it whitens everything. Why is bleach the enemy inside the tank?
Because of how it interacts with polymers and elastomers, bleach is sodium hypochlorite, a tremendously powerful oxidizing agent. When you use it to wipe down a counter, it does its job and evaporates. But when you drop a bleach tablet into a toilet tank, it dissolves into the standing water, creating a highly concentrated, continuous pool of corrosive liquid.
Oh, because it never leaves.
Exactly. That concentrated oxidizer sits there 24 hours a day, bathing the rubber flapper, the plastic fill valves, and the rubber gaskets in a chemical fire.
It's essentially eating the toilet from the inside out.
Literally. It rapidly accelerates the degradation of the polymers. The rubber flapper becomes brittle, warps, or completely disintegrates. The plastic valves become porous and crack.
That sounds like a disaster.
It is. Within a few months of using bleach tablets, your tank will begin hemorrhaging water into the bowl, requiring a complete mechanical rebuild of the interior. The vinegar and baking soda method gives you superior descaling and deodorizing power, but it preserves the chemical integrity of your toilet's internal organs.
That is a critical warning. Step away from the bleach tablets. So let's break down the mechanics of executing method 2, the vinegar and baking soda combo.
Let's do it.
This process is slightly different from the solo method. For this one, you do not empty the tank. You leave the stagnant water right where it is. First, you take 2 cups of distilled white vinegar and pour it directly into the standing tank water.
Right into the water.
Yeah. You take a clean toilet brush and just gently swish it around to distribute the acid. Then you drop in 1 cup of baking soda. This is what triggers that massive microscopic jackhammer effect.
And just like our first method, we return to the fundamental principle of chemical patience. Once that aggressive fizzing starts, you do not immediately start scrubbing. You must wait exactly 10 minutes.
Because if you scrub while it's fizzing, you're interfering with the jackhammers. You have to let the kinetic energy of the carbon dioxide expansion do the primary lifting.
Correct. The first 10 minutes leverages the active mechanical phase of the reaction. After those 10 minutes, the intense bubbling will subside. That is your cue to take your brush and give the inside of the tank a thorough scrub. You are physically removing that top layer of biological slime and loosened scale that the bubbles just lifted.
But here's where the protocol gets really specific. After you scrub, you don't flush. The source dictates that you must let the mixture sit in the tank for another 20 minutes.
This is a crucial step.
Why the secondary waiting period? If the bubbling has stopped, hasn't the chemical reaction ended?
The visual reaction has ended, but the chemical environment remains highly active. This is a brilliant two-stage attack.
Okay, walk me through it.
Think about what you just did. The bubbles lifted the soft, superficial grime. When you scrubbed, you cleared away that top layer, which exposed the incredibly stubborn foundational layers of calcified mineral scale underneath.
Oh, hard stuff.
Right. Now, during this 20-minute secondary wait, you are leveraging the passive phase of the reaction. While the baking soda has been mostly consumed, the environment in the water remains slightly acidic due to the residual vinegar.
So it's still working.
Exactly. That mild acetic acid is given 20 uninterrupted minutes to continuously eat away, soften, and dissolve that newly exposed hard scale.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Stage 1 is explosive lifting. Stage 2 is prolonged acidic dissolution. It really is doing the chores for you while you just stand there.
That's the beauty of chemistry.
And finally, after that full 30-minute cycle, you give it a flush, and the tank is practically brand new.
Exactly. You've neutralized the odors, sheared away the biofilms, dissolved the minerals, and preserved your flapper valve.
Now, obviously, we spent a massive amount of time talking about the hidden ecosystem of the tank. But we can't ignore the part of the toilet we actually use.
We have to talk about the bowl.
Let's transition to the bowl, the exterior surfaces, and frankly, every homeowner's absolute worst nightmare, the clog.
The beauty of mastering this basic chemistry is that the exact same principles we applied to the hidden tank apply perfectly to the visible fixtures. You do not need to pivot back to harsh, bright blue commercial liquids to clean the bowl. Mary's Guide provides a fantastic, seamless bowl recipe that utilizes the exact same ingredients.
Yes, the bowl protocol is wonderfully straightforward. You simply add 1/4 cup of baking soda and 2 cups of distilled white vinegar directly into the standing water of the toilet bowl.
Very easy.
Once again, you're going to get that intense, expansive chemical reaction. You wait at least 15 minutes, but the key indicator here is visual. You wait until the fizzing has completely and entirely stopped.
That tells you the kinetic energy is exhausted.
Right. Then you simply scrub the bowl with your toilet brush and flush.
It utilizes the same microscopic jackhammer effect, but focused on the curved surface of the bowl. And for the exterior touch-ups, the seat, the lid, the outside of the porcelain base where dust and ambient moisture tend to collect, the guide offers a slight variation.
What's the variation?
You don't even need the acidic reaction of the vinegar. You simply mix a small amount of baking soda with plain water to form a thick, spreadable paste.
Like a natural polishing compound.
Exactly. Because we established earlier that baking soda is a 2.5 on the Mohs hardness scale, this paste acts as a perfectly safe, gentle, abrasive polish. You wipe it onto the exterior surfaces, it gently shears away the grime, completely neutralizes any lingering surface odors thanks to its amphoteric properties, and you wipe it clean with a damp cloth.
You get a pristine finish without utilizing a single synthetic chemical.
It's fantastic.
Okay, we've covered the tank, we've covered the bowl, we've polished the exterior, but now we have to tackle the ultimate plumbing crisis, the clog.
The dreaded clog.
Because Mary's Guide actually provides a method to clear a slow-draining or clogged toilet without immediately reaching for the plunger, and it uses baking soda and hot water.
Yes, it's a great trick.
The specific instructions are, add 1 cup of baking soda directly to the clogged bowl water, then carefully pour in 1 gallon of very hot but not boiling water.
Not boiling, that's important so you don't crack the porcelain.
Exactly. You let that sit for 30 minutes. If you return and see the water level has dropped, the clog is successfully dislodged and you can flush. If the water hasn't moved, the chemical approach failed and you have to manually plunge.
Sometimes you just have to plunge.
But there is a pro tip included in this section that I found incredibly fascinating. Before adding the hot water, the guide suggests adding a 1/2 cup of grease-fighting dishwashing liquid to the clogged bowl. Why dish soap?
This is perhaps one of the most elegant intersections of physics and chemistry in the entire guide. To understand why dish soap works, we have to visualize the anatomy of a toilet.
Okay, let's visualize it.
When a toilet clogs, the obstruction is almost never in the visible bowl. It is lodged in the trapway, that internal, curved, S-shaped pipe at the very bottom of the fixture designed to hold a seal of water and prevent sewer gases from entering the home.
Right, the trap.
If you just pour a liquid cleaner into a clogged bowl, it tends to just dilute into the massive volume of standing water at the top. It never reaches the actual obstruction in a concentrated form.
But dish soap behaves differently.
Yes, because of fluid dynamics, dish soap has a significantly higher physical density than tap water.
Oh, because it's denser, it doesn't just mix into the water. It physically sinks straight to the bottom.
Exactly, gravity does the work. The heavy, viscous dish soap sinks straight through the standing water and pools directly at the lowest point of the trapway, right where the obstruction is wedged against the porcelain.
That is so smart.
Now, let's look at what dish soap actually is. It is a highly engineered blend of surfactants and lubricants. A surfactant molecule has a hydrophilic or water-loving head and a hydrophobic or water-hating, grease-loving tail.
Okay.
When that concentrated soap hits the clog, the hydrophobic tails burrow into any fats, oils, or organic matter holding the obstruction together, actively breaking it apart.
It's chemically dismantling the glue holding the clog together.
Yes, and simultaneously, the thick soap heavily lubricates the walls of the porcelain pipe. When you follow the soap with a gallon of hot water, the heat softens the organic material. The baking soda provides a gentle dissolving action, the surfactants break the grease bonds, and the intense lubrication allows the entire obstruction to simply lose its friction and slip cleanly down the drain pipe.
It is a highly targeted, multifaceted strike at the exact site of the blockage.
It really is.
That is absolutely brilliant. It's using gravity and density to deliver a chemical payload exactly where it's needed.
But wait, hold on. As I'm looking across all these different protocols, I'm seeing a massive contradiction in the source material.
The contradiction.
Yeah, I have to admit some confusion here. We just established that baking soda is our ultimate cleaning tool, our pH buffer, and an active ingredient in clearing a plumbing clog. But earlier in the guide, Mary issues a very stern, explicit warning that too much baking soda can actually cause a toilet clog.
Yes.
How does that make any logical sense? How can the cure be the disease? It sounds paradoxical, I know, but it completely aligns with the laws of physical chemistry, specifically regarding solubility limits.
Solubility limits.
Yes, we have to remember the physical state of baking soda. It is a dry, crystalline particulate powder. When you use it in small measured amounts, like the quarter cup in the bowl or the 1 cup spread thinly across the tank, it dissolves perfectly into the water.
It just disappears.
Right. The individual molecules separate, interact with the fluid, and perform their chemical functions invisibly. But water has a finite capacity for how much solid material it can dissolve at a given temperature.
It's the supersaturation problem again, just like with the hard water minerals.
Precisely. If you ignore the measurements and dump massive quantities of baking soda into the toilet, say emptying an entire 1-pound box into the bowl thinking more is better, the water simply cannot dissolve at all. You vastly exceed the solubility limit.
So what happens to the powder that doesn't dissolve? Does it just turn into a slurry?
It becomes much worse than a slurry. The undissolved particulates clump together and sink to the bottom of the S-trap. Because the powder is slightly moistened but not dissolved, it begins to act less like a cleaner and more like mortar.
Mortar. Like concrete.
Yes. As it settles and compacts into the curve of the pipe, and as water slowly drains or evaporates, that massive clump of baking soda can dry and harden into a dense, almost concrete-like blockage. The very substance meant to clean your pipes fundamentally forms an impenetrable wall inside them.
The medicine literally becomes the poison.
Exactly. This is why Mary's guide is so incredibly prescriptive with its measurements. You must never use more than 1/4 cup of baking soda in the toilet bowl at one time, and absolutely refrain from using more than 1 cup in the tank reservoir.
Precision matters.
Deeply. Even when you are working with natural, safe ingredients, chemistry is about balance, not sheer volume.
You absolutely have to respect the chemistry. It's not just magic dust. It's a specific chemical compound with physical limitations. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's do a final polish on everything we've unpacked today. We started by looking at a forgotten dark box in the bathroom, and we uncovered a highly active ecosystem of bacterial growth, volatile odor molecules, and crystalline mineral deposits threatening the mechanical integrity of our plumbing.
It's a lot going on in there.
And the solution wasn't a hazmat suit and industrial acids. The sheer utility of these natural, chemical-free cleaners is staggering. Vinegar and baking soda chemically neutralize deeply embedded odors by altering their molecular architecture.
They destroy the odor, not just cover it up.
Exactly. They leave a clean, fresh environment without relying on synthetic artificial fragrances. And most importantly, they fiercely protect the elastomers and plastic components of your plumbing by completely avoiding corrosive, oxidizing agents like bleach.
They truly represent a more sophisticated approach to home maintenance. And I want to highlight one final tip from the source for those who are incredibly busy or, frankly, just prefer the path of least resistance.
Oh, I'm all ears.
The guide offers the ultimate low-effort maintenance protocol. If you simply don't have the time to scrub, just pour 1 cup of plain distilled white vinegar into the toilet tank reservoir and let it sit overnight while you sleep.
Just while you sleep.
Yep. The mild acetic acid will spend those 8 hours slowly dissolving the daily mineral buildup and creating an environment hostile to bacterial growth. You wake up, you flush it in the morning, and your maintenance is done.
Yeah.
It is the absolute epitome of working smarter, not harder, by letting time and chemistry do the labor.
I love that. Just pour it in, go to bed, and let the acid do its job. It's brilliant.
And if we take a step back and connect all of this granular plumbing advice to the bigger picture, it leaves us with a really profound, somewhat provocative question to ponder.
What's that?
If a simple, entirely natural chemical reaction between 2 very basic pantry staples, a box of baking soda and a jug of vinegar, can safely, economically, and effectively maintain something as complex, vital, and heavily used as our home plumbing systems, what other areas of our built environment, what other systems in our daily lives are we currently over-treating with harsh, corrosive, expensive industrial chemicals simply because we haven't taken a moment to understand their basic foundational chemistry?
That is a phenomenal thought to leave on. We are so often bringing bazookas to a fight that just requires a thorough understanding of a little sodium bicarbonate. We complicate things when the natural answer is sitting right in our cupboards. Before we go, remember to check out Kindeke Carpet Cleaning on Google for your home cleaning needs.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Here's What Happens When You Put Baking Soda in a Toilet Tank podcast.